award-winning Tennessee Wildcast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee Wildcast. Hey, we're glad you're tuning in, and thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. It's going to be a great show today. We are on Hatfield Knob on the North Cumberland WMA and hoping to see some elk. We were out here earlier, and the fog is now lifted. The elk were out there in the fog, and now they've kind of slipped off into the woods. But, hey, maybe they'll show up before the show's over, and we'll get to see some. But I've got Mr. Matt Cameron with me today helping co-host, and then Brad Miller, our elk program leader for the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. We thank you both for being here.
We are thrilled to be here.
Excited. It's going to be a good show.
Yeah, cool day.
Yeah, it's a little cool. I'm the guy with shorts and a T-shirt or short sleeves, and then he got long sleeves, and then we got jackets. So, you know, we all got it's just how it is.
Yeah, Jason's tougher than the rest of us or dumber. We haven't decided which one.
We won't answer that question today. You never know what kind of weather you're going to run into up here on Hatfield Knob, North Cumberland.
Fact.
You know, it could be rain, snow, mud. It doesn't matter what time of year. Hey, you never know what you're going to see. So, but all kinds of wildlife. It's great habitat up here. We've seen some turkeys. There's been a bear come through on the elk cam recently, and that was cool to see. If you follow that elk cam, you go out there and check that out and watch that. And then the elk are always out here about every day, so at least.
Yeah, they were here this morning. You just couldn't see them very well. So we postponed the recording a little bit here, and it's fared up enough, but we're going to go ahead and roll with it. Maybe they'll come through at some point throughout the show. But we are looking at a couple of hen turkeys and some poults out here behind us.
Yeah.
There are critters.
It's fun to watch wildlife, that's for sure. Well, today is all about elk, and we really want to focus on the elk raffle. We've got one more week. August the 2nd is the deadline for the elk raffle, and we want to let everybody know this is your last chance. It's a great opportunity to win a prized elk tag, but also maybe win some other gear and other stuff that's really cool. And we're going to go over that today, highlight that, and then we're going to talk a little bit about elk with Brad and see how the herds are doing. But like I said, August 2nd is the deadline for the elk raffle, and they're going to announce the winner on August 16th. So that's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, at the commission meeting in Greenville. We'll announce that live. We'll have it on Facebook. And you can always watch the commission meetings live on YouTube. As long as there's a good signal and we don't have a problem, you can watch them out there. So, but the elk raffle, 1 ticket for $20, 3 tickets for $50, and 10 tickets for $100. So pretty good options there. And that best value is 10 for $100. That puts it back at the $10 per chance price tag as it was last year, but it was so successful last year we wanted to try to do it again this year, and it's looking good, and we're excited about it. And there's also the option for being drawn on the WMA quota hunts, but that's already passed.
By the time this airs.
So if you don't get drawn for that, there's still this opportunity. And anyway,
we'll talk more about the quota hunt process. It'll come again next year if all goes well. So you hadn't lost all hope of ever hunting elk in Tennessee. It'll come around again.
It'll come around again, yeah. So let's hit some of these prizes for this year for the raffle. And I think Mr. Brad here, he's an expert on guns too.
Don't go that far.
Well, we brought up this rifle that you have a chance to win. So the grand prize is a hunt, a rifle, and a chance to be on the Best of the West outdoor television show, and they'll come film your hunt. So this rifle is a 6.5 PRC Best of the West Mountain Scout. Now tell us, Brad, what is a 6.5 PRC?
Well, so I was looking at the prizes this year, was blown away. Best of the West, they're pretty well known. They make a lot of custom guns and have scopes with custom turrets, for your yardage and that sort of thing. And the 6.5 PRC is a caliber that I'm really interested in. Maybe my next firearm may be a 6.5 PRC. But long story short, the 6.5 Creedmoor has gained a lot of notoriety lately. The PRC, people are calling it its big brother. Shoots a little faster, a little more powder.
Okay.
Essentially like a 7 short action ultramag neck down. So it's just shooting 140 some odd grain bullets, factory loads. Hornady makes them, and it's a really great cartridge.
Reach out and touch something at a long distance.
Yeah, that's the thing. Nowadays it's really common. A lot of folks are getting into long range shooting. Distance drop is not such a big concern nowadays with laser rangefinders, but wind. So having a caliber and a bullet that's got a good ballistic coefficient, is slippery in the wind, that cheats the wind. So if you make those wind errors, you're not as penalized as if you're shooting, different calibers that are not as aerodynamic.
Gotcha.
Yep. And the hunt, didn't want to pass this up, but the hunt's going to be in one of the better zones, right?
Yeah, so the raffle tag, so it's our second year for doing it as a raffle tag. Previously it was, an auction on eBay or whatever, but we sort of changed things up. It's assigned to Elk Zone 1. We manage through a zone system. Elk Zone 1 is probably our top zone.
What's the name of it?
Well,
the Massengale.
No, that's zone 4. I think but it's zone 1 when you're applying. Yeah, and it's it's, if not 100% success, it's right up there. Our raffle winner last year killed a big bull. I think it was a 6x8, but it was a nice bull. And, it's a great opportunity. You get a zone all to yourself. A lot of elk in that zone. If the winner doesn't take an elk in those first 7 days, he actually or she actually has another 7 days to switch zones and zone hop, and all the other hunters will be gone. So if you hear of another big bull in another zone that somebody didn't have a chance at, you could go chase that one as well.
Cool.
For another 7 days.
I didn't realize that. I guess I forgot that.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't already mentioned, twrf.net is where you buy these rifle chances, so make sure you check that out. Second place is 2019 Polaris Ranger 570. It's a side-by-side vehicle, a UTV, and Pursuit camo, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd almost just be good with second prize there.
Yeah, I think anybody would. If you can't win the hunt, go home with a nice UTV.
So
would be awesome. And third place and fourth and fifth ain't too shabby if you want to throw those out there.
Yeah, two $2,500 gift cards for Bass Pro Cabela's, and that's
it's fun to say Bass Pro Cabela's now that they're not competing with one another.
Right.
You can go to either one.
Right.
They are family.
And that $2,500 would put a dent on one of their side by sides or something.
I guess it would, or
a nice rifle.
Yeah. Brad's talking about that rifle. It doesn't come cheap, does it?
No, custom guns are not cheap.
And so man could have him one of those rifles, and he'd have to find his own elk to hunt somewhere else, I suppose. If he were to win it.
The night muzzleloader is your fourth place prize, a 50 caliber muzzleloader. It's called the Mountaineer, so that's another great prize.
You ain't kidding. And Tennessee has some great muzzleloading hunting opportunities.
Absolutely.
One of the best times to be in the woods is muzzleloader season.
Yeah.
So
and the way they make them these days, it's like almost shooting a rifle. So
yeah, it is. It's hard to call them a muzzleloader anymore. They load from the end, but they shoot flat and long anymore.
Yep. And then the fifth place prize is $1,100 in hunting gear, which includes boots and coolers and other camo and all kinds of fun stuff. So
there you go. So great opportunities if you don't win the hunt itself.
Right.
And any idea how many chances have been purchased?
I don't know the
last
number
year or
right
this
now.
year?
But I know it's growing. I think it's more than it was last year so far. So that's encouraging and
very encouraging.
A lot of this money is going to go toward habitat improvements and help the elk program and everything that we do for elk helps all kinds of wildlife. And as you can see behind us, you got elk, you got deer, you got bear, and everything passing through Hatfield Knob here, and
and there's no limit on how many you can purchase, correct?
Right. You can buy as many chances as you want. So, $5,000 would put you in pretty good odds, wouldn't it?
It would. It would.
So that's
you got the money to spend.
It's a cool deal, and it's a great thing for Tennessee to have. I think the raffle was a good idea from the start. And actually, this elk raffle idea won us a prize or won us one of the awards at the ACI conference the other week.
Sure did. That first place award, correct? Yep. Yeah. So once again, the deadline is August 2nd, so you still have time to get in there, and you go to twrf.net to purchase these. And one for $20, 3 chances for $50, or 10 chances for $100. So don't forget about it. Don't let that opportunity pass you by, because you're we're not going to get many chances to hunt elk in Tennessee. 15 or so quota hunt permits, and then this one raffle. So if you're serious about wanting to hunt elk, you need to get on board with this. Probably your best chance.
Yep. And we were talking earlier, this marks the 10th anniversary. We've been hunting elk since 2009. I was here for the first hunt. That was a cool experience. And now it's 2019, and we're going to be hunting elk again. Keeping traditions alive 10 years in a row.
Yes. So. Yeah. Do you want to jump into the history of that and the whole elk hunting program? Or
yeah. Let's let Brad tell us.
That?
We introduced elk back in 2000-ish, 1999,
right.
And now we've got, what do you say, about 400 something?
Yeah, something like that. We turned loose over a 8 or 9 year period, about 200 elk, and we're it's really hard to estimate population size, but we're somewhere 400, 450 or so. Elk hunt started fairly small, 5 tags in 2009. It's expanded. We now have an archery season. Last year was tremendous. It was 7 hunters, and they got 7 bulls.
With archery
tag. Yeah.
Wow.
And then we do 7 gun hunts or gun permits, and then 1 youth. And it's expanded. We've got more elk zones, which are public land areas, than we had in the beginning. We've picked up opportunity at the Tackett Creek unit on North Cumberland. It's broken up into 4 different units, and it's a really neat system, really neat opportunity, and has been really successful.
So the elk are moving, and the herd's growing, and how many counties do the elk roam in?
Yeah, so we have 5 counties that contain our elk restoration zone. We're trying to keep elk within that zone, and with the North Cumberland Wildlife Management Area being right in the middle of that zone, and we still have areas on the public land where I'd like to see some elk, and we're doing our best to expand habitat and create corridors and just allow some more natural expansion into some of those currently unoccupied areas.
Okay, cool.
What is their habitat preference? We grew up with white-tailed deer here, and they're a very browsing kind of animal.
Yeah.
Acorns and so forth, but an elk's a different beast.
It is.
It's a big one.
Truth.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Tasty.
And that's a great point about them being big, and that's what I try to tell our elk hunters that get drawn. Is it's not something you're going to grab and drag out of the woods. You need to have a plan, because you need to be thinking horse, not deer.
Yeah.
When you've got 700-800 pounds of limp weight, you better have a plan.
Yeah.
Their diet changes throughout the year. It depends on late winter they're more of grasses, and summertime it's more forbs, and fall they're eating acorns like a deer would.
Okay.
So it varies throughout the year. So what we try to do is basically provide what they need that would be available, to meet all their year-long nutritional and dietary requirements. So just where we are here at the Elk Tower, we've got a 30-some-odd acre field that we keep planted, and winter wheat and clovers, and we'll drill beans in the summer, and then we've got other fields nearby. Just within this little 2-mile area, we've got about 80 acres of wildlife openings. On the way out on this main road, we've got areas that we have sprayed with herbicide and burned and set back that vegetation to create lots of forbs, broadleaf weeds. The elk really need and deer use. Turkeys nest in the summer. So, it's just a little bit about how you have areas, juxtapositions, the biologist term, but how you have areas stacked next to each other, make it available for a lot of different animals and an animal's entire year-long annual home range.
And about how many elk use this particular field where we're at right now?
Well, folks have seen up to 60, 70 animals out here.
Crazy.
A lot of elk, in this Hatfield Knob area. It's really got a neat history. We, when we brought the elk in, the first few years, a lot of them had radio collars, and there was intensive monitoring, UT research, looking at what they were using, where they were going, survival, all that kind of stuff. And they actually had a mortality in this area, and they came to find it, met an adjacent landowner, Terry Lewis, which y'all I think know, and this area was a surface removal from mining. That's why it's so flat. There's not a lot of flat ground around here.
Yeah.
But it was an area that people kept seeing elk sign. So, we had this partnership with the Tennessee Wildlife Federation, the Campbell Outdoor Recreation Association, and TWRA. We all worked together to, clear this, put this tower up, and I mean, it's been a tremendous success. UT did a study just a few years ago that found 12 to 14,000 people come up here annually to watch wildlife and see elk. I mean, it's quite a resource here, 8 miles north of La Follette.
And worldwide, you can catch it on the web.
On the web,
You can watch these elk on our website, tnwildlife.org. I think I see some kind of critter out there, maybe not. tnwildlife.org, and you can tune in and watch these elk and watch the bear. There was a bear out here, like I said, a few weeks ago, and the deer and the turkeys, they like this knob. So
earlier in the morning and later in the afternoon toward evening, I guess, probably the best time to view them.
Yep.
And we did miss our opportunity this morning.
Yeah.
They were here. We couldn't see them.
Yeah.
Not far behind us. A little too foggy.
Yep. They were grouped up out there, and as soon as the fog lifted, they lifted. They made their way out. So now, a lot of this you're telling us, some of this planning efforts and habitat work, it all falls in under an elk plan, right? You have a plan for what you all are doing. You're not just out here to say, well, we're going to plant soybeans because we want to plant soybeans.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
Tell us about the plan and what that plan is all about.
One of my catchphrases I use with the guys is, we want to make sure we don't do these random acts of conservation. We try to be very strategic in how we allocate our time and our equipment and our manpower and just resources in general. And to help, guide all those decisions, we developed an elk plan a couple of years ago. And, it lays out, what are our priorities? What do we need to be thinking about? We got a lot of public input on this, crafted this plan, and now we're doing annual public meetings, usually in March. That's when we did this last one. It was our first year of it, where we're trying to get additional input as we go, where we say, hey, here's what we've been doing, here's what we're thinking about doing, and, what comments do you have, ideas, suggestions, and, even the elk camera, that came out of some of our public planning process where, some other states had been doing this, and, one of the attendees said, hey, well, why don't y'all do it? And we said, well, okay.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's been wildly successful.
Absolutely. So the plan, it's available on the website, on the elk page, and, basically it goes into, over the next 10 years, what should our priorities be? What should we be thinking about? And it's, things like providing recreational opportunities, whether that's elk viewing here at the tower or other areas. It talks about habitat, where should we be keying in on, what should we be thinking about doing. It's got areas in there about education, elk conflict with humans. Elk, they're wild animals. They have issues like every other wild animal, and it really goes into all those various facets of managing an elk herd.
Cool. All right. Well, then there's also a lot of research going on out here, and UT's helping you with some of that. Talk about some of the research they're doing.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier when we first brought in elk, the first 2 or 3 years from 2000 to 2003 or 4, we had a pretty active research project. Had 2 or 3 students on it and trying to figure out, where are the elk going? What are they using? How's their survival? And, we're kind of, and so after that concluded, there was kind of a period where we weren't doing as much research. So we're kind of ramping that up again. We're working with UT, and we've got a couple of PhD students and a master's student that have been looking at, redoing some of what was done in the past, but also some new things, science changes. We're now looking at DNA, which we weren't really looking at back then, where you'll go collect, elk pellets, and you can uniquely identify an animal. You do that across the whole area. You can develop population estimates from it. You can, take pellets and do diet analysis, figure out, what are elk eating at certain times of the year, and that helps guide management activities, So, it's just a variety of things we're looking at. We're still in the very preliminary stages. They've gone through and had a field season, put out GPS collars on some cows and some bulls. We're going to do some more this upcoming fall. So just be looking for that. We'll have some, probably do some press releases and maybe do some, videos or whatever to highlight what we find and introduce the students to folks.
Awesome work. And when will that study conclude?
So it's a 3-year study. Okay. So we've got a couple of years left.
Okay.
So they do they do the study mainly up here where it's easy to find elk, or are they out looking for other sections? Other areas?
So theyese elk are pretty easy.
They're out here most of the time.
Yeah, and they're fairly laid back personalities up here. They're so used to people. Other areas, the elk are not as approachable.
Okay.
They might let you get within 100 yards or whatever, and then they're going to book it on out of there. So it's really tough darting those kind of animals because, using a dart rifle, it's essentially like bow hunting. You need to be within 30, maybe 40 yards. But if you have any wind at all, it really blows the darts around. So, I mean, it's tough.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, but they did a great job. We got, I think we were 18 animals or so this year. So we've got a few to go next fall.
Well, you talked about genetics briefly. Has there been any genetic influence from the elk coming out of Kentucky, particularly like in the Tackett Creek unit?
Yeah. So Dr. Lisa Muller at the University of Tennessee has been looking at some of the genetics of our elk, and it's amazing. You can figure out which elk came from our Elk Island source. Right. Versus the Kentucky elk, which were from 6 states or so from out west, and you can figure out who came from where, and we've seen some Kentucky influence. I'm hoping with this new study and picking up some sites in Tackett Creek where we've been collecting scat, we can tease that out a little bit more. But we certainly have Kentucky elk that have come into Tennessee. We had elk in Tennessee from Kentucky before we brought in our elk.
Okay.
So
didn't realize they'd been here that long.
Well, really?
Yeah.
Creeping in.
They were creeping down.
They dumped out a lot of elk. Like I said, we did a little over 200. They did a couple thousand. So
yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of elk.
They have more habitat for them, I guess, up there, don't they?
Yeah. In Kentucky, they've got a 15 or 16 county elk zone. Ours is about 5 counties, a portion. They have a lot of surface top mining where you remove the top of the mountain, leaves a flat spot, lots of grasses and forbs.
Like what we're here, right?
But
Hatfield
think bigger scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is a little different than what we have here. We have more of strip benches and that sort of thing, not so much of the surface mining.
And that was before they had to reclaim the mine sites. Is that from mining from years ago? They just got the coal out and just left it?
Well, I mean, even
back?
in the reclamation process, federal OSM agency, they have certain stipulations where you do have to reseed, but it ultimately has created pretty good elk habitat up there, and we've talked to the Kentucky guys a lot, and it's just a little bit different here than what they have.
Yeah.
But that's our main obstacle here at North Cumberland, is just the extent of mature close canopy forest, which is not ideal elk habitat.
Explain that to people. What's the percentage of close canopy we have?
High 90s, which, you think about elk out west or whatever, they'll certainly use, those deep, dark canyons and forests out west, but there's also a lot of open ground that elk use out. Yeah. So it's the same thing here. Even historically in some of the old explorer accounts, they talked about big fields and prairies and things, and seeing elk and even bison. So we're not there anymore. We don't have those big, large, expansive fields and areas available for elk now.
I see.
Talking about the elk from Elk Island and LBL and other places that we got them, and the ones coming down from Kentucky, they're all the same species, right? Or are they?
Yeah, it depends if you're a lumper or a splitter.
Excuse me?
What'd you call me?
Yeah.
But okay, if they're not, if they are
subspecies,
right?
But do you see some doing better than others in our habitat we have here in Tennessee? Or are they all doing about the same?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really say how. Kentucky's herd has grown tremendously, and I don't know if it was due to source population, habitat, subspecies, or what, but they're up to 10,000 elk or so, which is a substantial herd.
That's amazing.
Well, they started with 2,000s too, right?
Yeah,
in the thousands.
Yeah. So they put out a lot of elk, and maybe that that helped having a larger founder population, having them from multiple states, a lot of diversity perhaps, but I'm just, speculating. I don't know. But they were very successful in Kentucky. And, we're not doing bad. We're slowly growing every year. If you look at our population estimates, they're just, 7% annual increase, give or take, something like that. But again, it's really, really hard estimating elk populations. Because, we have elk on public land, and you can generally find them, count them, mark them, count them again as part of the population analysis. But we also have a lot of elk on private land, which we just don't really have access to. You hear people say, yeah, I've got X number of elk using, my hillside or my field or whatever, but really incorporating that into our population estimate is tough.
Well, can you talk about recruitment for a minute? I know we had a calf on the elk cam a while back, and that was cool to see.
Yeah, it's really neat to see. It seems like some years we see more calves than others, but generally our elk have pretty good recruitment. If you look at what they did in the Smokies, they had a lot of impacts of bear predation on their calves initially. They started a year or two after us. I think that may have got a little better, is what I hear. We're not really seeing that here yet, but our bear population is increasing here at North Cumberland every year. We're seeing more and more bears.
Okay. Yeah. Something I hadn't considered much about bears being a threat.
Yeah.
To them. Yeah. It's a big dinner. No.
Yeah. The calves are about the size of a whitetail, in a few months. You can't tell them apart, really.
Yeah.
Well, I wish they had shown up for the segment.
That's part of it. Hey, it's still great views. Great to be up here and see the mountains in the background. And if you're listening to the show, make sure you tune in on Facebook or YouTube, because it's great to see, not us, it's great to see what's behind us. So, but anyway, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Brad, thank you for jumping in here and being part of this show, being part of the day. We've talked about a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff. This is the place to find out that information. We're trying to get this information out to the public and to you. So keep tuning in to Tennessee Wildcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Matt, thank you for.
Man, I love doing these, especially when you get outside and get to see and enjoy what we manage.
Exactly.
It's always a blessing.
Exactly. All right. Well, we thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Tennessee Wildcast.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee Wildcast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.